For those of you who may be dozing or looking at your cell phones, please buckle up, because I intend to be very provocative. I would first start by saying that yesterday at the round table, I asked the audience to imagine that I was a man from Mars who arrived by Soyuz spaceship to look at what's happening in the world today and report back. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 3 key points. First, forget the phrase hybrid war. It is not new, it is misleading, and the only term that's worse than that is what the Americans called asymmetric war. War always has been and will be asymmetric. Second, the biggest distinction is that as thermonuclear weapons changed warfare, information technologies and digitization are affecting society because they are transforming societal strengths and weaknesses into great vulnerabilities. And finally, what can we do about all this, since we are on a very bad trajectory in terms of US-Russian and NATO-Russian relations? About the history of so-called hybrid war, Sun Tzu rightly said that all war is deception. The American Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, all use political aspects of war. And if you're worrying about how societies can be affected, I would ask you to go back to 1919, 100 years ago, when a series of 24 letter bombs mailed throughout the United States developed an extraordinary amount of panic, caused basic laws to be suspended, thousands of Americans arrested and some deported, and also led to the creation of the Bureau of Investigation. That was panic on a wide-scale sense 100 years ago. Now, what has technology done about making society's strengths and weaknesses vulnerabilities? In America 2 weeks ago in Washington on the Beltway, a fuel truck, as it was crossing the Veterans Bridge on the Potomac, experienced a flat tire, rolled over, and 10,000 gallons of gasoline were spread on the Beltway. Traffic was stopped for a day and a half. And you talk about vulnerabilities. Supposing I was able to interfere in 2 or 3 of Moscow's traffic lights today, you think traffic is bad? I can make it a lot worse. And this is the reality that we are facing, that through the information age, these vulnerabilities are going to be turned into even greater vulnerabilities, and we have to live with them. Now, what can we do about this? I wrote a paper, my column from Monday, but I've given it to the conference, called Springtime in Moscow. And I've come up with a number of ideas to try to change the trajectory of these relationships are going from bad to worse. Now, there is no reason to blame one side or the other, because I think we all share equal responsibilities. And given the serious nature of the relationship today, it seems to be, despite the political difficulties, President Trump and President Putin need to meet for more than just a couple of hours, in which half the time is wasted in translation. They need to meet for several days or even a week to sort out interest in common. We talk about terrorism, we talk about arms control, we talk about proliferation, we talk about the need for stability. There are areas of common knowledge. And if we don't do this, the abrogation of the INF Treaty, New START in jeopardy, could cause an arms race, which neither of us can afford, neither of us can need. This is going to take great political courage, because in the United States, Russia is viewed largely as an enemy by Congress. Congress will oppose this. And clearly in Russia, people will not want the United States, will not want to see Mr. Putin take the lead, arguing why should the Americans not go first. We're talking about the changing nature of war, colored revolutions. We are challenged by 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: failed and failing government, economic despair, disparity, and dislocation, radical violent ideologies, and environmental catastrophe. And if we all don't work together now, the world for our children and grandchildren is going to be a very sorry place. and it is our responsibility for that not to happen. Thank you very much.